And joining us on World Now to discuss the recent crisis in Sudan is a security and international affairs analyst, Ambrose Igboke. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me on the show.
So we see now that the vicious power struggle in Sudan is taking a new dimension, a new turn. Both sides seem to be disagreeing over how to transition to civilian rule. And what does this mean particularly for that transition in Sudan?
Before I answer that, I would like to do a little bit of background for the Sudan crisis, because those even in their 60s now, they're growing up. If they've been listening to radio as kids, they would have heard this Sudanese crisis have been growing. And there have been a lot of crises in Sudan as a country since even its independence in 1956. And then there have been factions along religious lines, then between the northern Sudan and southern Sudan. But all that petered out. There was a ceasefire in 1972, and then it lasted till 1983. And there was another round of war between the north and the south, which also lasted until the late 90s. And then there were issues of reconciliation, which finally led to the splitting of the country, Sudan. So today we have the South Sudan. And then, so when the South Sudan came up, we thought that, okay, finally this war will be over. Finally, there will be peace in Sudan. But again, we were mistaken, because before we used to think that it was a war between the North and the South, or along religious line between the Islam and the Islamic side of the country and the Christian side of the country, which was fueling the war when it was a large Sudan. But when we got Southern Sudan got its independence, well, we're thinking things should be better. But the politics of economic politics of oil that was in Sudan, South Sudan, also has triggered some issues there. And then when they started splitting forces, the vice president accusing the president accusing the vice president of planning a coup. The vice president fled the country, joined the rebels, and there was a lot of fights. The thing escalated. All the efforts to make peace did not work. And even when we finally managed to have a transition in place that led to democratic rule after the elections, the military came back again and just truncated the whole thing. And now they're planning another transition in the midst of lack of trust, in the midst of distrust, in the midst of the leaders themselves don't trust each other. And that is what is causing this issue. One faction is thinking that the other wants to upscale it, upstage it. Another one is thinking the other one is planning a coup. So all these issues have led to a lot of acrimony, conflict, which has now degenerated to the war we are facing today in South Sudan.
And Ms. Igboke, if I may just quickly jump in here, because I want to stay on the historical background that you just gave. For those who have not been following, I'm sure they have a better understanding of what's actually happening in Sudan at the moment. But from that historical background, we have seen the creation of a lot of non-state parties. Are you concerned that perhaps this might escalate and the non-state parties like the SLM might also be inflamed by what's going on in Sudan at the moment?
Well, the Sudanese wars has always been by these external factors. For example, there was a time the Ugandan government joined the federal government to fight war on its side. And then there have been presence of so many international communities in Sudan. For example, we have the United Nations troops have been there. AU has intervened. And different countries, even the Northern African Regional Union has intervened. And this has not solved the problem. So this has escalated to non-state actors. Right now, as we speak in South Sudan, there are so many splinter groups all fighting for power. Some of these splinter groups are regrouping. Some of them are forming alliances. Some of them want to take up power. So it is getting more difficult to actually find peace in Southern Sudan, because the more we speak, the more we have splinter groups. And as you said, these splinter groups are going to really, really contribute a lot of problem, a clog in the wheel of progress. Because who are you going to talk to? The situation in Sudan is like the situation we are having in Libya now and some other countries where the war has come to devastate the economy of the people. As we speak, over 6 million people have been killed in those wars. but a lot of people have been displaced. If you check on this over the years. So why the African Union have not been able to do something is what I don't know. Why has kept quiet? Why is this going on? Because there are special forces that would have been able to put everybody at stake, like what happened in Sierra Leone and what happened in Liberia. Such treatment should be brought to South Sudan so that we can have peace in that part of Africa. And a lot of people are fitting out on that field because of there are minerals there. Some external forces are coming to tap the mineral. Some external forces are getting protection from splinter rebel groups. And so these are the things that are happening that have made the war to be prolonged. And if there's no decisive
and Ms. Igboke, again, sorry to jump in because I have just about a minute or two left, and I want to ask you because we see that a lot of countries within Africa, Kenya, Djibouti, South Sudan, and even the African Union are all looking to send, offering to mediate the crisis. What are the prospects of a ceasefire and transition to civilian rule?
I think what we need now, the mediation has failed over the years, and I don't think any mediation is going to work. I think there needs to be boots on ground. There needs to be special forces created to tame the various militia groups. That is what is happening. And dissolve it, create a transition government that includes all the splinter groups, to have a transition government with boots on ground, with the military on ground, from special forces from around these countries, from nation and even AU and United Nations. If that is not done, if the treatment of Liberia and Sierra Leone is not given to South Sudan, then these things will continue. Mediation will be an aftermath of boots on ground to ensure peace first before mediation starts.
Thank you so much for talking to us. It was a pleasure to get your analysis on issues like this. Security and International Affairs Analyst, Ambrose Igboke.
Thank you for having me.